Well, good morning. Thank you very much for being here today. Welcome to Barcelona Restaurant, located in the historic German village area of Columbus. Barcelona has been here for over 9 years. I am the current owner. My full name is Scott Heimlich. My general manager, Michael Singer, has been with us for over 10 years, so very well established here in the city of Columbus. I want to talk to you a little bit today about our concerns over House Bill 45, the concealed carry that would be allowing guests to carry weapons, guns into bars, restaurants, open-air events, and other outside arenas. On behalf of myself, my staff, my guests, and fellow restaurateurs, we are opposed to this. We have some major concerns about what this will do to change the environment in bars and restaurants, and of course liabilities therein. Alcohol doesn't mix with a lot of things, and especially when we get into guns. We are very concerned that although there is a provision that says if you are carrying that you may not consume when you are on premise, how do we identify that person? It is very different than underage drinking. When we ask for an ID to prove somebody is capable of drinking, they have to produce it. If they are not able to, of course we can deny. But how do you do that if somebody is concealing a gun? Is there going to be pat-downs? Do we have to ask every guest before we serve them a glass of wine? Is it some type of security at the door? How do you regulate that? We're also very concerned about the liability. If something would happen with a guest that has a concealed weapon, who carries the liability of any incident? Would it fall back on the restaurant? Would it fall back on the guest that had the weapon? There's just no clear answers to that. Our liability as far as a liquor establishment is already exceedingly high with our insurance. I am very concerned financially as a small business that this would increase that dramatically. I do understand that there is a provision that we would be allowed to place signs on the restaurant, on the establishment, stating that if you have a concealed weapon, you may not enter. But again, it's concealed. How are we supposed to identify these individuals, regulate them, that type of thing? So there's just a lot of unanswered questions that go around this, but the overall thing is just the mix of alcohol and guns not appropriate in restaurants and bars. So with that, if I may, I'd like to introduce the Honorable Mayor Coleman.
Thank you. You summarized that very well, and from a restaurant owner, I think this legislature needs to listen to restaurant owners in this regard, because you're right. Legally allowing loaded weapons in bars and restaurants where alcohol is consumed doesn't meet the common sense test. Just common sense. And just to receive that, there's a vote today in the Ohio House authorizing a toxic mix, and I'm underscore the word toxic mix of alcohol and concealed weapons at bars and nightclubs and restaurants, puts those patrons and customers in danger, puts our residents in danger, and indeed puts our police officers at risk. You know, we have to start injecting some common sense in some of these discussions about the availability of guns. It's real simple. Liquor plus guns equals trouble. It's real simple. Now, legislature, they always, they want to do unto us, then they should do unto themselves. Because, as you know, you can't carry a concealed weapon into the chambers of the state legislature. So if the legislature truly believes that guns are good in bars, that guns are good in restaurants and nightclubs, then the legislature should do unto themselves what they intend to do to us. and that's to allow guns in the state legislature as well. Of course, I don't believe that, but it just shows the level of common sense that's involved here. In fact, the state legislature is not only prohibiting guns within their own chambers where they legislate laws, they're talking about now, Governor Kasich talked about putting up detection devices to allow guns not into the state house. Now, is that inconsistent or what? So all we're asking for is common sense, to do the right thing for our residents, to do unto us what you do unto yourself. You don't allow guns in the state legislature, don't allow guns in bars and restaurants. This is just common sense controlling the dialogue. And we ask our state legislature, we plead with our state legislature not to do something that puts us all at risk. This is real simple. And my hope is they'll do the right thing. They did the right thing for themselves by not having guns in their chambers. They ought to do the right things by the people who elect them and not have guns in bars and restaurants where alcohol is consumed. And again, guns plus alcohol equals trouble, whether it's in bars or whether it's in the state legislature. And I'll introduce the chairperson of the Safety Committee for City Council, who is doing an outstanding job in helping to fight crime in the city of Columbus. And she feels strongly about this as well, and that's Councilmember Michelle Mills.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and good morning to you all. I stand here as Public Safety Chair for Columbus City Council, and I encourage the colleagues in the Ohio House to please vote against this or any proposal that would allow guns in restaurants with liquor permits. I also want to speak to traffic stops. As some members in the House and the state legislators are aware that sometimes our officers have to pull over irate drivers. And you add a combination of irate driver who is angry because they're pulled over, and you add guns to that mix. That's not a good mix. I also want to talk about my experience yesterday over in the Hilltop out with our narcotics officers, where they are already facing situations of unknown amounts of guns and ammunition, unknown amounts of individuals on the other side of those barricade doors that they are not aware of. Now we're asking them to enter into establishments where there are liquor and angry patrons occasionally, and now you want to add guns. It's a bad mix for our officers. My intention is to ensure that every officer for the Columbus Division of Police can return home and say hello again to their families. We have to do that by not allowing this bill to pass. That is the way to ensure that officers can return home and say hello again. That's most important to them. That's most important to me. I want all of the citizens of Columbus to be safe. We have to make sure that our State House understands that. It is extremely important that we limit the ability to have guns in any place that's a bad mix, such as alcohol. It just does not make sense. You add individuals who have left a home, they want to come back home. Our citizens want to go back home, our officers want to go back home. Not to mention the unenforceability of this bill. You can't enforce it. You've heard from an owner himself to say, how am I supposed to protect the patrons in my establishment? Do I ask everybody? Do I disallow people to come into my establishment? That's not good economic development for our city. We have to think through this and make some sense that says do not allow guns and alcohol to mix. Again, I encourage the members of the Ohio House to not allow this bill to pass. It's extremely important to our officers and to our citizens to continue to have a safe city. Again, I ask that they do the right thing. It's a very bad mix, and it does not make sense. Have a great day.
Mayor, Mr. Alec, the common argument in favor of this is folks who will be carrying the guns are background checks already. They are the law-abiding citizens. They're not the ones you have to worry about. And they won't be allowed to drink under this bill, so there shouldn't be an issue.
I've seen a lot of law-abiding citizens get a couple drinks in them. What happens? Alcohol and guns is a senseless mix things that would end up in trouble. No one questions those who are law-abiding in any way. But who in this city can raise their hand and say, when I get alcohol in me, that I'm always law-abiding? When you add the alcohol to the mix, it changes the scenario completely. Changes the playing field completely.
Thanks, everyone.